that Rolling Stone magazine rolled it out first, and he really
I think it's
wasn't
at
dead
7.
yet.
I've seen that. I got one yearly.
And it's thing tomorrow.
Is he dead now?
Yeah,
Jumbos.
But he wasn't dead yesterday.
he wasn't dead at the time it was
Yeah,
released.
jumbos.
Well, you got Jumbos and that guy
Fake
left on
news, it was early news.
Don't you have one with that right on there?
All right, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock, and it's time to call the meeting of the Whitehall City Council meeting to order for the purpose of considering such matters that may come before it. And I ask everyone to please stand for an extended moment of silence for the victims in Las Vegas and for our normal moment. And then remain standing for the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Here.
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 Present. All right, first on our agenda, we have the approval of minutes for September 5th, 2017, and September 19, 2017.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Coniston, and a second by Mr. Cantor for approval of the minutes as submitted. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
All right, the minutes stand approved. Now, first this evening, we have two special presentations. First up, we have Anthony Penn. He's the CEO of Columbus Area Integrated Health Services, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his organization and what they do. And anyone who's speaking, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Penn, and I'm with Columbus Area Integrated Health, 1515 East Broad Street. You want to introduce yourselves real quick?
Good evening. I'm Susie Shipley Norwood, and I'm the program manager for the MECA program, which stands for the Multicultural Eastside Center of Columbus Area, which is our school and community-based prevention program, which is located at 1221 East Broad Street.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Maria Houston. I'm the Associate Director of Youth Treatment Services at Columbus Area Integrated Health Services, and we are located at 1221 East Broad Street. Thank you.
Members of council and city officials here, thank you for allowing us to come and share a brief moment of your agenda and talk a little bit about the services that are provided at Columbus Area Integrated Health Services. We do have a PowerPoint, and I think you have a packet in front of you. Columbus Area Integrated Health, just real quickly, we're a comprehensive behavioral health care organization. We have been providing services in Columbus, Ohio since the early 1960s. And through the work that we do at Columbus area, lives are restored, families are stabilized, and communities are strengthened. And so we want to talk with you a little bit about some of those services that we're providing to do that work. Our mission is really simple. Our mission is to provide culturally competent behavioral health, primary care, and wellness services. And our vision is to be the best in providing innovative and transformative quality care at Columbus area. You know, we've got a brief overview of our core values that we try to operate from. I won't walk all those through that, but I just want you to see some of those. Fiscal responsibility, accountability, culture of innovation, civic and social civic responsibility, operating with a level of integrity and teamwork, just a few. Just briefly here, this is some background information. We were incorporated in 1965. We started providing our first services in 1967. Moved the central office to the 1515 East Broad Street, which is where our headquarters is, 1972. And then in 2013, the organization went through a rebranding and changed the name from Columbus Area Community Mental Health Center to Columbus Area Integrated Health Center to incorporate both the physical and the mental health care into our operation. Just some more historical milestones from the agency. Was one of the first local mental health centers in Franklin County. Was one of the first local behavioral health cares that received federal funding. There's a couple other milestones there that I'll let you read, but I want to kind of get to some of the more relevant things for tonight's discussion. This is a little background information on some of the other areas where we're providing services. We have, of course, the 1515 East Broad Street location, the 1203 East Broad Street. We run a day treatment program for mental health consumers. 899 is where our central office is, and then we do some outpatient substance abuse services in that building. And then we have residential programs throughout the city where we're providing a variety of housing. We have some quasi-group homes. We have inpatient therapeutic community that we operate drug and alcohol services out of that particular building. An array of services are provided at the agency, comprehensive diagnostic assessments, individual and group counseling, youth and family services. We're going to talk more about our medication-assisted treatment. You're hearing a lot throughout the country related to the opiate crisis that is impacting many communities, and we have some programming in that area that we want to touch base on. Our faith-based outreach, our prevention and youth services. We wanted to talk a little bit about how we can partner with the city of Whitehall with the school work that we're doing in Columbus. I'd like to introduce that services to you folks here. Also supportive employment, therapeutic social services, some reentry housing programs, and then transitional housing. We do run a primary care clinic, and I know there are an array of primary care organizations in the city of Whitehall, but just wanted to mention that we also have one as well as a pharmacy in our East Broad Street location. But what I really wanted to concentrate on, and this is why the two ladies are here as well, is that we just launched the opening of our Urban Youth Trauma Center, and we wanted to talk with you a little briefly about what we're doing at that youth center and how we can partner with you all and members within the community to work with the young people of the city of Whitehall. So I'm going to ask Dr. Houston to come first and talk briefly about that program there.
Thank you, Mr. Penn. Good evening again to everyone. So I have the privilege of leading the charge for our new Urban Youth Center. We had the opportunity to renovate that space, which was previously occupied by the Peer Center, if you all are familiar. So we're right there located at East Broad and Champion. So with the renovations, we were able to refresh the building, but also kind of center it to make it very youth-friendly. And in that space, I really describe it as very holistic, and it's a safe haven for our youth. Within that center, we have not only our treatment services, but also our preventative services. And we've also integrated and brought in different programming for youth to kind of come and be there and be safe. We recognize that in today's society that a lot of our youth are experiencing an increased and a high level of trauma. A lot of exposure to whether that's drug and alcohol, to violence, to self-violence in our different communities. And so we have opened our doors to those youth and their families to be able to come in and to have that space to interact with other same age peers. We really focus on diversity within our center. We're very culturally sensitive in meaning that we recognize that some youth are struggling with identity issues, whether that's identity in terms of racial or sexual identity. We are a welcoming environment to all of those individuals and those families. Our services in regards to treatment, we provide individual counseling, but we also really emphasize family counseling because we recognize that we can treat the youth, but if we are not treating or impacting that system, that whole family, then we're not going to see long-term change. So we have the center, but then our clinicians, we're more than willing to kind of meet the clients where they're at. So we provide also in-school and home-based counseling. And so that's for the individual or for the family as well. We've also incorporated some group counseling sessions, and those sessions are focused around drug and alcohol. It's no secret that our youth are experimenting it, and it's an epidemic in our country worldwide. So in our AOD groups, we focused on the use that the individual youth are using, but we're also talking about the impact of potentially their parents or guardians and that impact on them as a family. Our second group is an art group. And in that art group, we focus on self-esteem and interpersonal skills. You can't learn your social skills from social media. It's what we tell them, but they will argue that certainly. But we bring those conversations in, and we really try to use a very child-centered language and interventions, and really out-of-the-box type of interventions. So that is sort of a scope of our youth treatment services. Thank you.
Doctor?
Yes,
What is AOD?
AOD, alcohol and drug.
Oh, thank you, ma'am.
Those, the jargon we use.
I looked through the pages, I didn't see anything, so.
Yes, so
Okay,
that's our
thank you.
drug and alcohol groups.
All right, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening again. As I said before, I'm Susie Shipley Norwood. I'm the program manager for MECA, which is our school and community-based prevention program. I would like to welcome the opportunity to come into Whitehall schools and bring our prevention program. Presently, we are in 4 elementary schools, we're in 3 middle schools, and 3 high schools. And when we say our prevention groups, we focus on personal development. We actually work with the school personnel at the school to identify students who may be in need of developing or enhancing their personal development skills. Anywhere from decision-making, self-esteem, conflict resolution, bullying, respect for adult authorities, and then the ATOD, the alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We like to start really with our elementary students, because if we're talking about doing true prevention, we've got to start early. I think most of you would agree that by the time they get into high school, really middle school by now, they're kind of raising themselves, especially with all the things that are going on in some of the households right now. Our program is year-round. We start in October with our students, and we work with those same students all the way up until the end of May. In those groups, we also work closely with the school personnel to help identify any child that may be in need of treatment services. We like to focus on prevention, but sometimes we're late, and so we know that it goes beyond the prevention, and we have to go into the intervention, the treatment part for those young individuals. So we do believe and embrace the holistic approach as well, working with those families, getting them into treatment and counseling, as well as the young people. Because we can work with our children all day long. If they go home or go to an environment that's dysfunctional or lacks certain things, they're going to end up in the system. So we also operate a summer camp, and we do partner with your school during the summer, because our school, one of our camps is in Whitehall over at Eastmore Square. So we do come over and bring them sometimes to have meals here at the Whitehall High School.
You said you work with the schools to identify possible children that may be in need of your services. How do you go about interacting with those children? Do you have to get permission from guardians or parents?
Yes,
and,
we
and what if they're not willing?
Yes, we do. What happens is we have a long history with Columbus City Schools, and I'll just say that we do. So they know us very well. So what happens is when I send out a survey in August to all those school personnel to see if they want our services again. And if they say yes, we identify whether they want us to focus on the alcohol, tobacco piece or the mental health, the personal development piece. And we even combine some of those sessions, overlap. And then what happens is teachers will identify students with a permission slip that goes home to those parents, and then they have to give their consent for their child to be in the group. We do have cases where there are parents whose children have been in the MECA groups at a previous school, and now that when they move and they find out that we're in their school, they even say, can my child be in the group? We also do some classroom presentations, which means we work with the whole class as a whole. We may go into a health class and work with that class, and we're there one day a week, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour.
Do you ever have parents
Follow up.
refuse?
Do we have what?
parents or
No,
guardians?
we
who
have not had a parent that has refused. And I will share this with you. We sometimes will bring in a speaker, and if there's something, I know at one point we had a speaker come in, and one of the parents was like, well, I really don't want my child to be in there. So on that day when they were there, we just did not allow them to come into the group. So we will honor and work with parents in their request. Yes.
See, has this presentation also been done for the school board?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, we had to actually present before Columbus City Schools Curriculum Committee to be able to go into their schools.
Have you-
Whitehall School.
Yes, have you been in front of
Yeah.
Whitehall?
No, we have not. Yes, okay.
That is a goal of ours. Thank you, Susie. I know we're running a little over, and I want to bring us to a closure here. But that is a goal of ours, is to be able to also to present this information with the school board. Real quickly, I wanted to also just mention briefly another area where we're wanting to introduce to elected officials here in the city administration is that most communities around our country are struggling with how to deal with the opiate addiction problem. And so we've been holding community forums with elected officials, community leaders throughout the city and surrounding communities, and introducing these medication-assisted treatment programs as another solution to helping solve a community problem in that particular area. There are a lot of good providers out throughout the city that are offering these services. One of the things that we have designed in our model now as we're dealing with addiction and disease disorders is being able to get people in the same day that they seek care, getting them in that same day. So if there are situations in the community that you feel a need for some training in this area or exposure to programs, we'd like to talk with you more about how we can help you in those areas as well. We also just launched a new faith-based outreach services where we're actually going out to churches and providing training with the leadership of the church and congregation members about mental health, how to access services, how to spot when somebody's having trouble and where to turn for help. So we're building that program, and we certainly would like to expose you all to the training that we're doing in that particular area as well. And this is just some background on our population that we're providing services to, serving a little over 4,200 individuals and families right now throughout the city. Obviously, the need is great as you look around the media and see all of the different events happening in our communities across the country. Mental health is kind of behind a lot of these issues, untreated mental health. And so our goal tonight was just to kind of introduce some of the programming that we offer and let you know that we're here to be a partner, provide services to the community here if there is a need. And we can entertain any questions. I know you have a tight agenda, and I don't want to take too much of your time.
Questions, anyone?
And Mr. President, I do have a comment. As well as to members of council, I have the distinction of serving on the board of directors for Columbus area, myself and Lori Elmore. A part of our directive to Anthony was to start developing relationships. And you know me, wherever I go, I'm constantly touting Whitehall and the opportunities and what we do in our community. And I saw that Columbus area had never really focused on Whitehall. And as you all know, Whitehall's my focus, so I wanted Columbus area to also have this focus. So this is the beginning of a discussion. Mr. Penn.
We got that message, didn't we?
Mr. Penn is a fine individual. The organization works. My family participates in some of the services that are involved. I believe in it. I believe in their method, and I believe that Whitehall would benefit greatly with respect to their services. So this is just the beginning of a conversation. Their next step is to the schools, and I look forward to where this may go.
Thank you. Thank you, City Attorney Bibbins. And again, thank you for your time, and thank you for all the work that you do on behalf of this community.
Do we have your contact information?
Yes, we have cards here that we'll leave. We'll pass them over here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here this evening.
They left you.
All right, so next, from the Whitehall City Attorney's Office, we have a special presentation regarding domestic violence awareness, and I believe this is the Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. First, before our domestic violence advocate comes to the podium, I would like my staff to stand and be recognized. They actually get a lot of the credit for the work that we do in the city attorney's office. As you know, this is Kylie Keach, Brad Nicodemus, and Charles Ellis. You all know Julie, who is here and who will be facilitating. Lorena Lacey is new to the office. She is a godsend to my office. Let me just say it unequivocal. The work that she does, the people that she comes in contact with, and the passion she has for her work is unmatched to anything that I've seen as a practitioner with domestic violence advocates that I had to come in contact with when I represented defendants, and now being on this side of the fence with having an actual domestic violence advocate that's representing victims. I really appreciate the work that she does. Charles and Kylie work with her downtown predominantly. She does arraignments, she does temporary protection orders, she does the gambit, and I'm rambling because I see Julie having technical problems. But nevertheless, I just wanted you all to see my staff. I know that you have heard their names, but it's always good for them to come, and I thank you all for coming out tonight. And so without any more delays, Lorena.
Good evening, members of Whitehall City Council. I see you all wearing your purple ribbons. Thank you so very much for that.
Mine's from last year. I didn't throw mine away. I still have it.
Good job.
I had it
Very
on
nice.
before I ever came over to this evening.
Probably on that jacket too, wasn't it?
No.
Okay.
I have one on just about every day.
Okay.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. And thank you, City Attorney Bivens, for your gracious introduction. As mentioned, I am Lorena Lacey, the current domestic violence victims advocate for the Whitehall City Attorney's Office. Since I am new to Whitehall City government, I'd like to begin by thanking Mr. Bivens for the opportunity to serve in this capacity and to give you all a brief synopsis of my professional experience and personal life. Prior to joining the Whitehall City Attorney's Office on March 20th of this year, I have served as the first African-American female Sergeant at Arms for the Ohio House of Representatives, served as legislative assistant to former State Representative Patrick T. Berry, served as Director of Client Administration for Tom Pappas and Associates, served as Government Affairs Manager for the Greater Columbus Chamber of Commerce, served as Executive Assistant and Minority Outreach Coordinator for Congressman Patrick T. Berry, have been a candidate for Ohio's 15th Senate District and Columbus City Council, served as bailiff in the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas, served as call lab supervisor for a strategic research group, worked as a dispatcher for Carb Communications, which is a third-party contractor for Spectrum Business, and have been licensed by the state of Ohio as a surety bail agent. I am a 1985 graduate of Columbus's Eastmore High School, having served as president of my senior class, and I attended the University of Cincinnati. Although I have traveled across the United States, I am a native of Columbus, Ohio. I have one adult son, 5 grandchildren, and I care for my elderly grandparents who are 86 and 89. Although I have not yet been certified in the area of domestic violence advocacy, I am confident that my aforementioned professional experiences, especially within the legal system, have made me uniquely qualified from a grassroots perspective to assist victims of crime in the city of Whitehall. My accomplishments have given me firsthand knowledge of how the judicial system works, and I have been able to effectively articulate the process and respond to victims' inquiries with ease and genuine compassion. I hope the information presented this evening, throughout this month and beyond, is helpful to the citizens of Whitehall as we try to eradicate domestic violence and similar crimes in this city. Domestic Violence Awareness Month evolved from the first day of unity observed in October 1981 by the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. The intent was to connect battered women's advocates across the nation who were working to end violence against women and their children. The Day of Unity soon became a special week when a range of activities was conducted at the local, state, and national levels. These activities were as varied and diverse as the program sponsors, but they had a common theme: mourning those who died as a result of domestic violence, honoring those who have survived domestic violence, and connecting those who work to end domestic violence. In October of 1987, the first National Domestic Violence Awareness Month was held, and that is the same year in which the first national toll-free hotline was begun. In 1989, Congress passed the first Domestic Violence Awareness Month commemorative legislation, and such legislation has been passed every year since then. The Day of Unity is now celebrated the first Monday in October, so keep that in your thought process for next year, because it was yesterday. As indicated on our last slide, in 2016, it was Senate Resolution 566 that was passed supporting the ideals of National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. In addition to the purple ribbons that I see you all wearing, I hope you have seen the purple flags that have been flying beautifully on Yearling Road between Broad and Main Streets. I am told that in years past there have been bows or ribbons, but this year we thought that flags would be more visible to the public. Many have asked why the color purple. The color purple for domestic violence, it got its roots before domestic violence was even an acknowledged movement. Rose Garrity, who's the board president of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and a longtime movement member, has stated, and I quote, "The women's suffrage movement utilized purple, white, and gold in the early 1900s as those were the colors of the National Women's Party. The colors started over in England and symbolized purity, hope, and loyalty," end quote. On July 9th, 1978, nearly 100,000 advocates marched on the Capitol in Washington, D.C. in support of equal rights, and many of them wore lavender. Ms. Garrity has also informed us, and I quote, that battered women chose purple as an evolution of the lavender from decades past. It's seen as a color of royalty and is already associated with females anyway, end quote. In the United States military, the Purple Heart is presented to those who have been wounded while serving. For survivors of domestic violence, many of whom have been wounded both physically and emotionally, the color is meant to be a symbol of peace, courage, survival, honor, and dedication to ending violence. And again, we've provided you with with a purple ribbon to wear this month and beyond if you choose, and that will symbolize your commitment to this effort. So again, thank you all for wearing those this evening. Empowerment advocate. Under the direction of the City Attorney's Office, people often ask, what does the Domestic Violence Victim Advocate do? We coordinate all administrative duties related to victims' rights, contacts domestic violence victims, assess their situation, and tend to the basic needs of the victim, give information regarding the procurement of protection order, information about Choices, which is a center for domestic violence that provides counseling and other services, medical treatment, transportation to a safe dwelling, and or court. That's something that's not mentioned there, but I have transported many victims to court that were not able to get to court. Explain victims' rights, keep the domestic violence victim informed, and promotes domestic violence awareness. I'd like to elaborate a bit on the title of this slide, Empowerment Advocate. Many times after consulting with the victim or prosecuting witness, as we call them, and explaining their rights and options, I'm asked, what do you think I should do? Or what do you want me to do? And my response is always, it is not my job to tell you what to do, but to rather explain all of your rights and options, answer your questions to the best of my knowledge and ability. And with that, the goal is to empower you to make the best decision for your situation. Victims of violence are constantly told what to do or how to act by their abuser. So once they have decided to pursue charges filed and participate in the court process, our office sees this as a chance to empower victims with accurate knowledge and proper support to finally make their own decisions. In other words, victims of violence are never ridiculed or belittled if they choose not to seek a protective order. However, based upon the allegations and evidence available and details disclosed by those victims, I will address any safety concerns that I or the prosecutors may have. But the decision to obtain a protective order always remains with the prosecuting witness. I have had 2 occasions to visit the second shift roll calls of the Whitehall Police Department, and I've established a protocol with many of those officers. During this month, if my personal and professional schedules can coincide and be adjusted, it's my hope to visit both the first and third shifts roll calls to further develop those relationships. But at present, regardless of the shift, when a defendant is arrested, our police officers not only provide victims with my contact information, they also conduct a lethality assessment with the victims if he or she is willing, and that assessment gives the officers an idea of their level of risk and imminent danger and safety. And they advise me via text, call, or email of the victim's telephone number, the nature of the offense, the victim and defendant's relationship, and the incident allegations so that I can consult with the victim immediately and explain the judicial arraignment and bond process and the victim's safety options. Those victims seeking a protective order are given details on how to procure the same at arraignment and after if they are not able or willing to attend the arraignment hearing. Currently, I focus on the following, what they call TPO, or temporary protective order eligible offenses, and they are domestic violence, assault, a violation of protective order, aggravated menacing, criminal damaging, importuning, and criminal mischief if one of the aforementioned offenses is a component of the crime perpetrated. Franklin County Municipal Court only has jurisdiction over misdemeanor charges. However, I have had the occasion to assist a few victims of felony level violation of protective order, domestic violence, felonious assault, and burglary offenses in the Franklin County Common Pleas Court, where those types of cases are adjudicated and where I formerly served as a bailiff. After bond is set for a defendant, regardless of whether the victim is present or not, he or she is contacted within 24 to 48 hours. It takes about that long for the clerk's office to assign that case to a judge. So within that time period, they are given details on the judge that's assigned to their case and the date of the pretrial hearing, which is where the exchange of evidence begins. Prosecuting witnesses also receive a subpoena from our office for all hearings and a reminder call or text from me 2 to 5 days prior to each hearing to answer any questions they may have and to encourage their attendance. These witnesses are not left alone to navigate the court process, and they are always kept informed. So just to give you sort of a snapshot of what this looks like, a defendant is arrested. As soon as I am given information from the police department, and sometimes that's at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'll be honest with you, I don't call victims at 2 o'clock in the morning. They probably are already traumatized, so to try to give them some information at that early hour in the morning may not be well received. But as soon as it's appropriate, I do make contact with those victims. I've been given some information from the police department already, so I kind of have an idea about what it is that's happening, and they don't have to reiterate verbatim every single thing that took place. I am going to get the police report at some point in the immediate future. But I make contact with them and establish a rapport with them and a relationship with them and let them know that there is somebody that's assigned to them from the prosecutor's office in the city of Whitehall to listen to them so that they can be heard. And I explain the process to them, explain to them why it is that it's necessary for them to attend the arraignment hearing, because that's the best place if they're seeking a protective order for us to serve the defendant with that protective order, because we know where that person is. They're right there in the courtroom. And from there, I don't leave their side. And so when after the bond is set and the case is assigned to a judge, they hear from me. When the pretrial hearing is scheduled, they hear from me a couple of days to 5 days prior to that hearing. When we show up at court, I call for them inside and outside of the courtroom. I sit with them and listen to them, ask them questions about what it is that's been transpiring, if anything, since the arraignment hearing. Go over any safety concerns that they may have. And again, just to let them know that there is someone within the city attorney's office that is supportive of them and supportive of their position. And I also help them get connected with the prosecutor so that they can have conversations with whoever may be assigned to that case for that day, and again, to make sure that their voice is heard with respect to how they'd like to see those cases resolved. The CDC estimates that over half, or 55%, of homicide cases have known documented history of domestic violence. In 2010, I came across a report that the CDC conducted a survey in that year, and they found that 40% of victims of severe physical domestic violence are men. Oftentimes when we think of domestic violence, we think about it being just a crime perpetrated upon women, but there are a significant number of men who are victims of domestic violence. We do know that women are often silent regarding domestic violence for multiple reasons. including but not limited to fear of the abuser or retaliation from the abuser's family or friends, for financial reasons, or because they have children with their offender. However, men may be silent because they are perceived to be physically stronger than a female attacker and they fear ridicule by law enforcement and or the public. Although there has been an increase in the number of fatal domestic violence incidents against women, this survey also concluded that men are more likely to be the victims of attacks with a deadly weapon. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigations in 2016 reported the following statistics. In Franklin County, there were 3,157 charges filed with respect to these types of cases, 8,680 incidents with no charge or disputes with no charges filed. In the state of Ohio, 38,740 charges were filed, with 36,067 incidents or disputes where there was no charge. In the city of Whitehall in 2016, 199 charges were filed, 89 incidents or disputes with no charge. Year to date, in 2017, there's 217 charges filed with 322 disputes with no charges. And our next slide will give us some detailed information about some of these statistics. The data on this slide that you see has been provided by the Whitehall Police Department. And when using the word incidents, this means officers were dispatched to scenes where physical violence or threats have occurred and are documented and charges are filed. The timeline for this data is January 1st of this year through September 29th, which was last Friday. You may ask why there are not an equal number of arrests to incidents, and the response is there are times when the offender has left the scene, charges are filed based on probable cause, and a warrant is pending for their arrest. Now, what is not included on this slide are the dispute numbers, and so I'll give you each of those for the wards in Whitehall. And when using the word dispute, this means that officers were dispatched to the scenes where there has been no violence. For example, a neighbor called because they heard parties yelling or arguing. And let me give you those figures. In Ward 1, there were 70 disputes, resulting in 5 arrests. Ward 2, 101 disputes with 3 arrests. Ward 3, 53 disputes with 1 arrest. And in Ward 4, 88 disputes with 3 arrests. Now, you may ask, why are there any arrest numbers associated with disputes or no charges were filed? And the response is that one of the parties may have had a warrant for some other type of offense or become disorderly or obstructive during the officer's investigation of that particular dispute. Since March the 20th of this year through today, and actually I did calculate it through today, I have been involved in the resolution of 139 cases, and there are currently 59 cases pending in inactive status. Our legal assistant, Julie Harris, has provided the following statistics on cases resolved. In 2013, there were 136. In 2014, there were 153. In 2015, there were 181. And in 2016, there were 194 of these types of cases resolved. We are hopeful in the City Attorney's Office for a year when the number of these types of cases in any category is 0 in the City of Whitehall. In the month of October, we will continue to highlight the theme. We will continue to mourn those victims who have died from domestic violence. And so as we were having that moment of silence for those victims of the horrific tragedy in Las Vegas, and we have moments of silence in the future, please do keep those victims of domestic violence in your thoughts and prayers, and their families as well. We will continue to celebrate survivors by being a safe location of support and information regarding available resources, and by connecting those who are working to end domestic violence. One of the ways to shine a light on this issue is to recognize the difference between a healthy and unhealthy relationship. I have given each of you 2 leaflets from the Ohio Domestic Violence Network that provides this information, and you will notice that one of the leaflets is specific to the LGBT community. These and other pamphlets are available outside for anyone to take. Our approach to ending domestic violence in the Whitehall City Attorney's Office is to identify the problem and provide assistance in fixing the problem. For example, when a victim tells us that the violence occurs when the offender is drinking or using drugs, or that offender has a mental health issue, or there is an underlying reason for the crime being committed and the victim does not want the offender in jail, we strive for a resolution wherein the offender is ordered to get counseling or treatment, and we encourage and support the victim in that regard. If we can fix the problem, perhaps we can fix the family and then end the violence. We also believe that working with children at the middle school level in our community and teaching them about healthy relationships is another way to celebrate survivors and eliminate the violence. If people learn or witness at a young age healthy relationships, there's a better chance that all of their relationships will be healthy. Finally, these are some of the resources that we use and provide to victims of crime. If any of you within the sound of my voice know of any organizations in or outside of the city of Whitehall that are providing resources or services to victims, please encourage them to contact the Whitehall City Attorney's Office so that we can add them to our database and make use of those services. We'd like to encourage you to be sure to visit the city's website this month for links to resources and other useful information. I'd like to close by thanking City Attorney Michael Bivens for his extraordinary vision on this issue, and thanking our prosecutors, Brad Nicodemus, Kylie Keach, and Charles Ellis for all of their hard work and dedication. I also have a special thank you to our legal assistant, Julie Harris, and our administrative assistant, Tracy Wentz, for all of their support, because what we are accomplishing could not be done without all of you. I'd also like to thank my family. My boyfriend is here in the audience, and I'd like to thank him personally for allowing me and giving me the time away from home to be able to do the work that I do enjoy doing and assisting the victims in the city of Whitehall. Members of council, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and I will try to answer any questions that you might have. I hope I haven't gone over my 10 minutes, and I will remain in the lobby until council is over. Did I go over my 10 minutes? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go over my 10 minutes. So thank you again very much for your time.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much.
He normally only gives you 3 minutes, so you're in good shape.
I'm in good shape. Thank you, Mr. King.
Got that, Joey? You're not turning so red now.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is poll public. It's our first poll public of the evening. If anyone would like to come forward, you'll have up to 3 minutes. All right, we'll move on to our standing committee reports, and we'll begin with Administration and Financial Management, Chairperson Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Administration and Financial Management did meet last Tuesday. Our minutes are on file in the council clerk's office, and you can pick up a copy of that if you just request it from her. I'm sure it's good reading. We have, I think, 4 items that might be introduced tonight. Ordinance 90 deals with the JAG grant. Ordinance 93 is authorizing the mayor to join a coalition of municipalities for the purpose of challenging constitutionality of the amendments to Chapter 718. And I wish you guys, if this happens, success with that. Also Ordinance 94 and Resolution 53, which is Agenda now, just paying bills. We will meet again next Tuesday sometime after 6:30.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Community Engagement, Chairperson Coniston.
Thank you, President Graham. Community engagement met last week. Our minutes are on file, and we'll meet again next week in the back sometime after 6:30.
All right, thank you. Community Standards and Enforcement, Chairperson Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Community Standards and Enforcement met last Tuesday. Minutes are on file. We'll meet again next Tuesday sometime after 6:30.
All right, thank you, sir. Economic Development, Chairperson Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Economic Development also met last Tuesday. Our minutes are on file, and we will meet again next Tuesday sometime after 6:30 in the back.
Thank you, sir. Infrastructure Maintenance and Services, Chairperson Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Infrastructure Maintenance and Service also met last Tuesday, and we have Resolution 55 coming up with special assessment taxes. And our minutes are on file, and we'll meet again sometime in the back after 6:30 next Tuesday.
All right, thank you, sir. Public Safety, Chairperson Staley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Safety met last Tuesday in the back. Our minutes are on file. I did want to report that Chief Crispin and our sergeants are back from their training that took place in Virginia. He said that it was very educational. They taught a lot of leadership skills, and he thought that was very beneficial to the department. We also have seen some beneficial educational materials for our officers that stepped up to become leaders at the department while the chief was gone, so that was very good there. might be better for Community Day Board, but our chief is having his quarterly reports at Westfall Church on the 19th of this month, so hope everyone can be here. Our minutes are on file from last week. We'll meet again next Tuesday in the back. Thank you.
All right. Parks and Recreation, Chairperson Cantor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parks and Recreation also met last week. Our minutes are on file. We also have a couple of pieces of legislation we're going to piggyback with public safety. We're actually going to have our police officers patrolling our parks, which is a good thing. We've got a grant coming through for that. We'll meet again next week in the back. Trees. Okay. Oh, okay. We planted 84 trees in the parks. Mr. Graham wanted me to tell you that. We had, what did I tell you, we're 58 varieties of maple, 14 varieties of, yeah, don't laugh at me, Zach, and 14 different crab apples. And Parks and Rec will meet again next week in the back after 6:30. How's that? There you go. Thank you so much.
Well, people like to know that there's some trees out there being planted. We cut lots of them get cut down, but nobody ever puts any back. All right. Well, those are all the standing committee reports we have this evening. That brings us to our officials' reports, and we'll begin with our mayor, Ms. Kim Mack.
Good evening. Glad to have you here. I just would like to let everyone know that we are swearing in 2 new firefighters tomorrow at 10 a.m. here in council chambers, i.e. the courtroom. Also, I'd like to let everyone know that there will be a special announcement of a partnership with the YMCA on October 10th at noon at Whitehall Community Park. If you're able to make it, would love to have you there. Also, I wanted to give you an update on the single subject rule from Senate Bill 331 from last year. That was the Christmas tree bill. That also had the issue about the cell towers that could be put in any right of way in a municipality. As you know, that the city of Whitehall was involved in an appeal for that, and we won that appeal. But then that was in Franklin County Common Pleas Court, but then it was overturned, and we are still working on that to move forward to take that to the Supreme Court. Also, Cincinnati also appealed that, and they won their appeal. So I think we're looking pretty good on that. The fact is that we are challenging this because we are charter cities, and the Senate did not keep to its single source, single subject rule on that, and also they are overturning home rule within municipalities. So those are some of the things that we were worried about, and I think we've got a good chance, but I wanted to give you an update on what we're doing further on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our city attorney, Mr. Michael Bivens.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. First, thank you, everyone, for being out here tonight. Secondarily, I just want to just say it again, how much I appreciate my staff for being here this evening. And Lorena, you did a great job. So appreciate your presentation. Officially from the Whitehall City Attorney's Office, in the month of September, we prosecuted through our mayor's court 255 cases. Out of those 255 cases, Councilmember Cantor, there were only 25 of those were criminal. So we are downward trending at 9%, whereas last year, this same time, I believe it was 11%. So that's pretty promising. That is the official report. Unofficially, my son is here tonight, and I showed you some pictures of him winning the Throwback Thursday for his 70s outfit, and I feel like I should get a part of the credit on that because I'm a child of the 70s, and some of those clothes came out of my closet. So I'm taking some credit.
BG?
That could be. And so I just wanted to, officially just pat myself on the back on that one, and just that ends the city attorney's report.
All right, thank you.
He did dance to that, too. Don't laugh. The Bee Gees.
Next, we have our city auditor, Mr. Dan Miller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no official report, although I would like to ask for favorable considerations on ordinances 90, 92, 93, which actually deals with litigation against home rule. The state is trying to infringe on our collection of taxes at this point, and we're also child also would like consideration.
All righty, thank you, sir. Next, we have a man of many hats, Mr. Zach Woodruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow,
Do more than one
that is
thing.
loud.
Director of Development.
That is really loud.
Public Service.
Thank you. Thanks.
More than one hat.
Sure. I just wanted to give council a brief update. That is way loud. We are still making great progress on the Etna Road project. We're still confident that we will be able to get the majority of it done this year. Some of the items that will be left to next year are a lot of the landscape plantings, and to go off Councilman Cantor's team here, we will be planting 146 trees along the corridor, split between hawthorn, Cherokee Princess, and snow goose cherries. Those will be the trees there.
Did you say snow goose?
Snow goose cherry.
Nice.
Snow goose cherry, the park department eats pear tree apparently.
No kidding. I'm with them.
There you go. So, I also do want to just remind people that the leaf pickup will start on Monday. Our leaf season begins in Zone 2, and we will go through the first part of December. We are ready to go. We had an audit with the Ohio EPA, first step of an audit yesterday, and I'm pleased to report that they were pretty excited by our changes in how we collect our leaves and not store them at the garage, and so they were pretty pleased with that change, and I think that's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. Next, we have our treasurer, Mr. Steve Quinzel.
Thank you, Mr. President. No official report tonight. However, do want to make you aware we are making deposits now at both Key and Heartland Bank. I've been making those in Reynoldsburg because Heartland's branch and Key's branch are only a block apart on East Main Street. But my point is, a week ago, there were several major power outages in Reynoldsburg, and just so happened I was on my way to the bank when one of those power outages occurred. I arrived at Heartland Bank. They opened the doors, took me in, and provided handwritten receipts for the day's deposits. I went to Key, and everybody had been sent home for the day because the lights were off. So just think, again, we made the right decision regarding our choice for city deposits.
Depends on how you look at it.
Well, the following officials' reports have been filed in the council office. We have the mayor's report to council for August 2017, the treasurer's investment report for August 2017, the treasurer's activity by fund report for August 2017, and the treasurer's fund reconciliation report for August 2017. Under communications, petitions, and claims, we have the 4 items listed on the agenda, and we have received no other items since its publication. Next, we have our verification of copies. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll on whether each member of council was given a copy of each item of legislation listed on the agenda prior to the meeting and including any add-on legislation.
Yes.
Yes.
Staley? Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Gregg?
Yes.
All right. I personally handed them those add-on legislation, so I wanted to make sure everybody was in agreement there. All right, under third readings, we have no legislation under third readings this evening, so we'll move on to our second reading items. We begin with ordinance 81, 2017. It's amending the zoning map attached to Chapter 1122 of the 1970 codified ordinances of the City of Whitehall, Ohio, and as subsequently amended, allowing a special permit under 1123.10C1 to allow Heartland Bank to operate a drive-in window and drive-through facilities on the property located at 430 North Hamilton Road, property owned by Heartland Bank. That's been referred to the Planning Commission, and we will have a public hearing on this ordinance on October 17, 2017. And that ordinance is being read by title only. Our next ordinance is 85, 2017, Also being read by title only, it's amending section 1122.10 titled Whitehall Commercial Overlay District in the codified ordinances of the city of Whitehall, Ohio, to clarify all signage requirements. That's also been referred to the Planning Commission and for their October 12, 2017 meeting. Next, we have Ordinance 86, 2017. It's amending the zoning map attached to Chapter 1122 of the 1970 Codified Ordinances of the City of Whitehall, Ohio, and is subsequently amended, changing the zoning on property located on East Broad Street, parcel number 090008249, from General Commerce District to Exceptional Use District, property owned by Office City Incorporated. That's also been referred to the Planning Commission, and we also have a public hearing set for this piece of legislation on October 17, 2017. Ordinance 87, 2017 is being read by title only. It is amending the zoning map attached to Chapter 1122 of the 1970 Codified Ordinances of the City of Whitehall, Ohio, and is subsequently amended, changing the zoning on property located on North Hamilton Road, parcel number 090008405, from Exceptional Use District to General Commerce District, or to General Commerce District, property owned by Heartland Bank. That's been referred to the Planning Commission, is also scheduled for a public hearing on October 17, 2017. It is the last item we have under second readings. We'll move on to our first reading items, and we begin with Ordinance 89, 2017, authorizing and approving a supplemental appropriation of $25,000 from the 291 Clerk of Court Computerization Fund to the Clerk of Court Computerization Expense Account and declaring an emergency. That ordinance is being read by title only. Our next ordinance is 90, 2017. It's making and approving a fund transfer in the amount of $2,475.18 from unappropriated monies in the general fund to the fiscal year 16 JAG Grant Fund, making a supplemental appropriation of $2,475.18 from the fiscal year 2016 JAG Grant Fund to the fiscal year JAG Grant account and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce Ordinance 90, 2017, move for suspension of all rules.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Staley for introduction and suspension of all rules on Ordinance 90, 2017. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
The rules have been suspended on Ordinance 90, 2017.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Staley for adoption of Ordinance 90, 2017. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Coniston?
Yes.
Tanner?
Yes.
Staley?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Ordinance 90, 2017 has been adopted. Our next ordinance is 91, 2017. It's making and approving a fund transfer in the amount of $2,059.97 from the fiscal year 2015 JAG Grant Fund to the General Fund and declaring an emergency. That ordinance is being read by title only. Next, we have Ordinance 92, 2017. It's authorizing the creation of the Safe Parks Grant Fund and Safe Parks Grant Account, advancing $40,000 from unappropriated money in the Law Enforcement Trust Fund to the Safe Parks Grant Fund, making a fund transfer of $13,835.60 from unappropriated monies in the Law Enforcement Trust Fund to the Safe Parks Grant Fund, making an appropriation of $53,835.60 from the Safe Parks Grant Fund to the Safe Parks Grant account and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 92, 2017, and move for the suspension of all rules.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Staley and a second by Mr. Cantor for introduction and suspension of all rules on ordinance 92, 2017. Questions or comments? All right. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 The rules have been suspended on ordinance 92, 2017.
Move to adopt.
Second. Second.
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot where I'm at.
Okay.
I'm having technical difficulties. Did we already suspend the rules?
We did.
All right. Ms.
We're moving
Frymark, please
on.
call the roll.
Yes.
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 All right. Ordinance 92, 2017 has been adopted. These things don't always work the way I anticipate. All right. Next we have, what?
Want a hard copy?
No,
Okay.
I'm stubborn. Ordinance 93, 2017 is an ordinance to authorize the mayor to join a coalition of municipalities retaining special counsel for purpose of initiating litigation to challenge the you know what I'm saying, of amendments to Chapter 718 of the Ohio Revised Code relating to municipal income tax and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to introduce ordinance 93, 2017, move for suspension of all rules.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Morrison for introduction and suspension of all rules on ordinance 93, 2017. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 The rules have been suspended on ordinance 93, 2017.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Morrison for adoption of ordinance 93, 2017. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Ordinance 93, 2017 has been adopted. Our next ordinance is a piece of add-on legislation this evening. You may not have it on your agenda. It is ordinance 94, 2017. It's authorizing approving a supplemental appropriation of $918,000 from unappropriated monies in the general fund to the property acquisition expense account and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 94, 2017, move for suspension of rules.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Rodriguez for introduction and suspension of all rules on ordinance 94, 2017. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 The rules have been suspended on ordinance 94, 2017.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Rodriguez for adoption of ordinance 94, 2017. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Ordinance 94, 2017 has been adopted. Our next item is a resolution. It is Resolution 53, 2017. It's resolving to approve then and now certificates and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce resolution 53, 2017, move for suspension of all rules.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Rodriguez for introduction and suspension of all rules on Resolution 53, 2017. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 The rules have been suspended on Resolution 53, 2017.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Rodriguez for adoption of Resolution 53, 2017. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Resolution 53, 2017 has been adopted. Now, our next resolution is very complicated. It may take me a while to read this. It is being read by title only. I will have to do this several more times. It reads, resolving to commit to sustainable 2050. That is all.
And you messed it up.
Did I?
No.
No, I didn't. That's what it says.
You got it.
All right, we'll move on. We have, next is
That's
Resolution 55, 2017. I wish they could all be like the last one. Next, we have Resolution 55, 2017. It's levying special assessments for property maintenance at several locations in the city of Whitehall, Ohio, certifying such costs to the Franklin County Auditor to be assessed against such property and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I wish to introduce Resolution 2017 and move for the suspension of all rules.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Gregg and a second by Mr. Cantor for introduction and suspension of all rules on Resolution 55, 2017. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 The rules have been suspended on Resolution 55, 2017.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gregg and a second by Mr. Cantor for adoption of Resolution 55, 2017. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Resolution 55, 2017 has been adopted. Our next resolution is 56, 2017. It's authorizing the mayor to apply for and accept an Ohio Office of Criminal Justice Services grant through the Ohio Community Public Relations Grant Program and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce resolution number 56, 2017, and move for the suspension of all rules.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Staley and a second by Mr. Cantor for introduction and suspension of all rules on Resolution 56, 2017. Questions or comments? Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 The rules have been suspended on Resolution 56, 2017.
Move to adopt.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Staley and a second by Mr. Cantor for adoption of Resolution 56, 2017. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 Resolution 56, 2017 has been adopted. It's the last item of legislation we have this evening. That brings us to our second opportunity for poll public. If anyone would like to come forward, you will have up to 3 minutes. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Lori Elmore. I live at 645 Fairway Boulevard. And first of all, I want to thank you to the council president, fellow council members, and elected leaders. Thanking you for the opportunity to even speak. My apologies for not being here when Columbus Area Integrated Health Services spoke regarding the mental health services that we provide, but I want to also thank my fellow board member for pinch hitting on my behalf. I believe that with the opioid epidemic that exists here in Whitehall, that we are in a position to do some partnering with the services that I believe do a very good job at providing the services needed in this community. It doesn't just affect the person. It affects family members, it affects the children, it affects everybody, it affects the entire community. And so in sitting on that board for 5 years or more, I just believe that I have a responsibility, we have a responsibility to address an issue that is happening in our community. And because I sit on a board that engages and works in that capacity, I wanted to bring that forward in the community to see what we could do to get a handle on the issues that affect Whitehall. Not only that, I also want to speak on behalf of the Domestic Violence Month and the fact that that was a presentation that was done. I had a very, very dear friend of mine that I grew up with, Darlene Hart, that was killed in domestic violence. And I think it's very important that we recognize that you never know until it hits you, somebody in your family or somebody you've grown up with, how important it is for us to reach out. And even if they don't say anything, we should recognize that there are some different behaviors that happen within our friends, our families, that we need to address. And I'm just thankful that it has been recognized, it has been brought to the forefront, and it is something that we need to address. And again, I want to thank Council for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Columbus Area Integrated Health Services and the month of domestic violence. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time? All right, we'll move on to Community Date Board.
Oh, I've got a lot.
Really?
You can do one.
That I better pick
Choose
wisely.
20 seconds.
All right, tomorrow is Meet the Candidates Night over at the high school at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night.
Yes.
Please be sure to be there. And I commend the candidates. A lot of them are out here today. I commend you for being here and to listen to what's going on in our community. I believe that will help you for tomorrow. But come out and support these students that are going ahead and putting this together, which is a wonderful thing. I believe I saw over a banner about a spaghetti dinner for Sunday. Am I correct here?
That's correct. It's for the Lions Club.
For the Lions Club, so that is also going on Sunday.
I think that's on the next Sunday.
Is that the following Sunday?
Yeah, it's the next.
We have a lot going on in the city.
What's the location on that
Berwick.
spaghetti dinner?
Berwick.
Thank you.
Berwick.
Berwick.
That's out there.
All right, we're moving on to October here. There's a lot in October. October 14th, over at Whitehall Community Park is going to be an antique and car show. That will be from 10 to 3. We also will have the Parks and Recreation, we'll have a band there, Waterloo 5. I've been told they're not an ABBA band, which just, that whole name just throws me. It doesn't make any sense. But I've been told they're very good, and it'll be a rock and roll band. They will be there at 1 o'clock. That's very important, I know. And then on October 21st, Employment for Seniors will be having a 5K walk run over at John Bishop Park. I'm sorry, October 11th is
Okay,
President Graham's
start over.
birthday.
Where's
It was-
that party
I
at?
said it was very important.
That's right, it is.
October 27th, we are going to be having a Citizen of the Year presentation. Hopefully, you will all be able to be there for that. This is the first time we're doing it this way, but we want to really spotlight our male and female Citizen of the Year. We are still taking nominations through this weekend, so those can be directed to our WCCA email account, which is wcca13@gmail. We have a selection committee that will be meeting the following week to go ahead and to make their decision on who the male and female will be, and that will be unveiled on the 27th at 7 o'clock over at Etna Road Elementary School. The following day, on October 28th, is the Halloween Walk. And obviously, that's always a fun event, and I would hope that you would all come out and bring candy to give to our little goblins that will be all dressed up and winning awards and having a good time.
Breakfast being served that day?
We'll have lunch that day, for the kids, hot dogs, chips, and
What time
cookies.
did you want us there to set up?
I'll let you know.
You'll do that. That's on the 28th.
That's on the 28th.
And I think on the 14th, the car show, they're still looking for vendors. They need some more vendors. Is that correct?
They are still
Okay.
looking for vendors.
Okay.
Antique thing.
So for any of those events, if you need any more information, please come to me and I will let you know.
What about trick or treat?
When we doing eggs?
That's the 31st.
had her on a roll.
I was on a roll.
Yeah.
Easter eggs?
Easter eggs.
Is there anyone else that has something for Community Date Board?
As Caitlin mentioned, quickly, next week is Fire Prevention Week here in the city of Whitehall. Our fire department is having a fireman's run course for our youth here in the city. So if you have kids, I would encourage you, take them there, have them race that and see who we have our future firefighters out here in the city. So
Who else has something for Community Date Board this evening?
As a note for Fire Prevention Week, the fire department will also be doing free home inspections and escape routes. And the information's on our website if you'd like to schedule that.
What other events may be happening in October?
We don't have time for anything else, I don't
Already
think.
mentioned the weapon.
All right, we'll move on from Community Date Board unless someone else there has something else. To poll council, we'll begin with Ms. Coniston.
Joey, you've already talked.
Yeah, I took all of
I want to talk more. I want to thank Columbus area for coming out and giving the presentation that they gave. My sister used to work for Columbus area, and I know the good work that they do. I want to thank Lorena, and I want to thank the city attorney's office for coming out tonight and giving that wonderful presentation. I know firsthand, unfortunately, about domestic violence. My first marriage, and here's a full disclosure of something that people don't know about me. My first marriage was ended because of domestic violence. It wasn't that I was beaten, because you don't have to be beaten to be a victim of it. But we are very, very lucky in the city of Whitehall to have you all here, that, to be an advocate for people. And I don't think that every city has something like that. So I applaud you. I think you're wonderful. And thank you again for being here. Yesterday, and I told my husband that my eye has been twitching the last 2 days, and a lot of it is just due to what's going on in the world today. And it makes me sad. It makes me want to come together more so. It makes me want to change the world more. I'm not one to go on to my Facebook page and to go ahead and to talk negatively about anything. And I still will not. I just think that we need to all remember that we're all Americans, regardless of what your side is. We all know that shooting is bad, killing people is horrible, and this should never, ever happen. And I don't have anything else for tonight.
All right, thank you. Mr. Canner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and they left, but I wanted to thank Columbus Area Integrated for coming by. It's a really good idea. I had the pleasure tonight of meeting Mrs. Lacey. She walked by me, I didn't realize who you were, and I looked at our city attorney. I said, "Is that her?" So I want to thank, I know you have a very tough job, and I told you that, and I know our city attorney's office has a tough job, especially by the statistics that were put up there. It's a bad thing we have, and it's not pleasant. What Karen said about Las Vegas, I'll be honest about it. I'm surprised it hadn't happened worse and before. I just didn't realize the magnitude. I had a text from my brother, actually started texting me at 4:44 in the morning yesterday morning, and I sat there and it came to a point where I just couldn't watch it anymore. And then he sent me a text last night at 10 till 10. Told me to turn on Hannity. Big and Rich, they're country guys, were performing, and thousands and thousands of people, and they didn't realize it, but to the hour we're singing God Bless America with their cell phones, like back in the 70s we used at a concert. And it was really sad that an hour later that some of those people would no longer be with us. Last Friday night, I want to change the subject really quick. It was a homecoming at Whitehall. Now, I think a lot of you know me. I go to a lot of the ball games. It doesn't matter if it's an election election year, if it's homecoming, alumni, but it was a special night and I had a heads up. There's a lady in our community, and she used to be family, and they did a little special presentation. And I'm gonna go ahead and tell you her name. It's Tracy Mackey Jones. And after the presentation, and with that, I want you to remember that this month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's actually in my family right now, a 27-year-old cousin. And with Tracy, she's been family. She's a really, really dear friend. So keep a lot of these women in your prayers. There's over 200,000 women that are affected by this each year. And some of it's incurable. And I was negligent to know this until, I really hate to say it, but maybe about 7 weeks ago. It's not a good thing. So today I had the opportunity of, and I do this quite a bit, I go by the schools during the time that they're let out just to check the traffic flow and just see how things are. But today I stayed up at the Dairy Queen and I watched our SRO officers, which is school resource officers. And I saw Officer Dillon and Officer Holyfield. And I want you to know, and Mr. Bailey will appreciate this because for years when you were on the safety committee, the amount of complaining and talking about the kids, the unruliness, walking in the streets, running across Yearling Road, not getting out of the way on Rickenbacker. Not one kid today did I see across Yearling Road. Not one kid did I see walking down the middle of Rickenbacker. I didn't see anybody congregating at Dairy Queen or the beverage shop, Save-A-Lot. So kudos to our police officers that I didn't think it could be done. It's been a huge problem, and I know we have another SRO this year. Thank you for that. And it makes a difference. Just this one extra officer has made a difference so far. And one was actually standing out. And then he walks him back to Save-A-Lot, just to check while the other officer's standing there. And there was a group of kids. I mean, it was 3:15, 3:20, and that place right there on Yearling Road, it's busy. I know you're all inside most of the time. I know he doesn't let you out at that time of the day because you're probably pretty busy. But it was amazing. I didn't see one kid. I didn't even see our city attorney's boy, young man, I should say, walking in the middle of the street, which I never have, and go ball game Friday night. And I'm sorry I took so much time, but there's a lot to say tonight. I'm done, Mr. President.
All right, Mr. Staley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to thank all of the presenters tonight. Ms. Lacey, welcome to the team. It seems like we have a dream team at the city attorney's office, so that's pretty awesome. I do want to tell you of an organization that I volunteer with that helps women who suffer from domestic violence, and that's the One Sight Foundation. As an optician, I volunteer my time to help women whose even glasses are broken. It may seem so small and mediocre, but it takes a lot when you lose your vision. So definitely put that on your list. They help millions of people in the United States to get their glasses fixed, and they do it all at no cost. So when they're suffering through a time like that, just to go and get a free pair of glasses is something that could mean a lot. So definitely put that on your list, and I'll have contacts for you for that as well. The Columbus area, the presentation was very good to see that we have organizations who care so deeply about our youth here in the city, as we do up here. It's very honorable as well as uplifting to see that. And just to speak rather shortly about what happened in Las Vegas, it kills me inside to know that people are filled with so much hatred and so much harm towards people. With my understanding, the police have not yet found a motive for this, but I just question the motives behind somebody who feels it's necessary to take so many lives. Ms. Lacey, I know you said yesterday was the Day of Unity. I feel that next year in the city we should definitely have an event here in WCCA. We need to make that happen and show the world that the America that we know and love. We are united, and we can use that day to show it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I won't speak for the 20 minutes, but I would like to thank everyone for coming. There was great presentations from the city attorney's office and from the Columbus area. Anytime that you all give up your free time to come in here and do presentations to us, we really appreciate the information and the hard work. Everybody have a good week, and hope to see you tomorrow evening.
Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move for the suspension of all the rules. Thank you all for coming, and I just kind of want to share this thought. First, Ms. Lacy, I mean, the numbers you showed us up there, broken down by ward and even annually over the last couple of years, are staggering. And I, for one, I don't think I ever really took domestic violence seriously, because that's not rational behavior in my mind, and I didn't think that there were that many people that behaved like that. But there was a time in my life when I realized that it was happening in my family, and I didn't know it, and that's the part that got me. You know, I was close to this individual, my family. It wasn't my wife. But I was close to this individual, and they never indicated that there was a problem until it was too late. The police were involved, and it was bad. And the city attorney's office and the domestic advocate came and helped and made a very big difference, because honestly, I didn't know how to handle it. I know what I wanted to do, but it wasn't the right thing. And city attorney's office stepped in and did the things that you described, and it was wonderful. And things are better today. And but as others have indicated, appreciate the work that all of you do. I guess that's all I have. I'd also want to thank everybody for their comments tonight. A lot of nice things, to the point things that were said. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think everything's pretty much been said. Lacey, I kind of lost track of you after T-Berry. Welcome to Whitehall. God bless you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Gregg.
I'll go ditto Mr. Rodriguez, other than the fact that, Lorena, that's, something that is good for this community. And, being in education and seeing it like that, I got a little combination of both tonight with Columbus area and domestic violence, and see that there's a lot of work progress that's coming along, and it's going to help a lot of people. Thank you.
All right. Well, I also want to thank everyone for being here this evening. A lot of great information from the two special presentations. It's always interesting to hear everything that's going on that you don't normally hear. You don't see it in the paper. Unless you're at something like this, you don't realize all the good things that are going on out there with different organizations doing everything they can for everyone in the community. I'm just going to end by saying that hopefully someday we can all live in a peaceful world. That's for all of it. So we have no further business coming before us this evening, so I think a motion for adjournment would be in order.
Second.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Mr. Bailey and a second by Mr. Rodriguez for adjournment. Ms. Frymark, please call the roll.
Yes.
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 All right.